Hello, everybody, and welcome back. Our next speaker is John Walsh. John is at Indiana University, where he's an associate professor in the Luddy School of Informatics, Computing, and Engineering, and an adjunct associate professor of English in the College of Arts and Sciences. He's been the director of the HathiTrust Research Center since 2018, and today he's giving us an update on the work of HTRC. John?
Thank you, Sandra, and thanks to the panelists from that wonderful panel before the break and everyone else we've heard from today. I'll jump right in. We can go to the next slide. And the HathiTrust Research Center's mission is to enable and support the computational analysis of the HathiTrust corpus by developing and implementing secure computational environments, tools for text data mining and non-consumptive research, data sets derived from the HT corpus, and outreach and education services. The HT corpus is such an amazing and rich resource, over 17 million volumes. I go to HathiTrust.org frequently to grab an individual volume for my own research. But with those 17 million volumes, there's so many different kinds of research to facilitate in digital humanities, but also in social sciences, data science, and other domains. Scholars want to analyze this content at scale. They want to analyze in copyright content in a non-consumptive manner that doesn't violate copyright. And the HathiTrust Research Center exists to facilitate these kinds of research. Computational reading and analysis of hundreds or thousands of volumes at once, and non-consumptive analysis of in copyright or otherwise restricted content. Slide, please. Our audience is really the worldwide research community, but particularly the subset of that community represented by HT members. Many of our services are available to everyone, but we do have select key services that are exclusive to HT members. Slide, please. We're funded by the HathiTrust, by Indiana University and University of Illinois. And we also receive funding for specific initiatives from organizations like the Andrew W. Mellon Foundation, NEH, and IMLS. Slide, please. This is our leadership team. I don't have time to read through all the names, but it's a great group of people, and I'm privileged to work with them. And the next slide, please, shows you the rest of our team and how many people, staff, and students it takes to keep HTRC moving forward. Slide. We're divided into 3 operational units that deliver different services to our users. And while we have these 3 distinct units, there's a great deal of overlap and collaboration among them. Slide. We'll start with outreach and education. This group, led by Associate Director Eleanor Kale, conducts our general outreach and communications, workshops, testing and documentation of new tools, virtual office hours, user group meetings, our advanced collaborative support program, and data capsule export reviews. I want to give a special recognition to Eleanor and the rest of her team for their work delivering these services through the pandemic. In the months since COVID began, we've held 2 successful virtual user group meetings with guest speakers, virtual office hours. Before COVID, we would hold multiple in-person workshops every year at different HT member institutions. And since COVID, we've held 2 virtual workshops. A 3rd is ongoing this week, and a 4th will happen before the end of the year. Slide. The cyber infrastructure operations, led by Associate Director Marie Ma, keeps everything running. We have a complete copy of the HathiTrust corpus here at Indiana. So there's a large technical infrastructure to support those data, to support our web presence, the data capsule, virtual machines, and so on. This group keeps all that running reliably and securely. Slide. And finally, research support services, led by Associate Director Glenn Worthy. This group conducts new research in text data mining and non-consumptive methods to develop new tools and services for exploring the HathiTrust corpus. They also generate reusable data sets from the corpus, and they provide technical support for HTRC users and for our advanced collaborative support projects. Slide. That concludes the general and organizational overview. And now I'll look in more detail at some of the specific tools and services we offer. All these tools and data sets are available at analytics.hathitrust.org. And you can jump ahead 2 slides, please. Great. This is one of our web-based tools, the Bookworm. Our Bookworm tool lets users visualize the relative frequency of individual words in the HT corpus. For his project Inside the Creativity Boom, Samuel Franklin from Brown University is mapping the increasing use and shifting meanings of the words creative and creativity with a particular focus on the 20th century. A custom creativity corpus will be assembled and processed through computational analysis to identify linguistic patterns. And Brown's project will make use of this tool in visualizing his explorations. Slide. Another web-based tool, our Info Topic Explorer, is a topic map tool. Here we see an example visualizing topics in Walter Scott's Waverly novels, 48 volume set of those novels. Slide. Here's a token count and tag cloud creator visualizing word frequency and providing a downloadable spreadsheet of all the words and their frequency, again in 48 volumes of Scott's novels. Slide. And our named entity recognizer, which will detect named entities, people, places, groups, organizations, and so on in a collection, again, Scott's novels. Any user can create an HT collection, submit it to one or more of these tools, and view and download the results in their web browser. Slide. Our extracted features data set is an amazing resource of volume and page level statistics for a recent snapshot of the full 17 million volume HT corpus. It allows users to conduct research over the full content of the HT corpus, including in copyright content, because it's non-consumptive. These data indicate every word that appears on a page, part of speech information, and how many times that word appears on the page. But the data are non-consumptive because the data do not indicate word order. One cannot reconstruct sentences or consume the original intellectual content, but one can perform useful textual analysis on this data set. Slide. And this is just a screenshot and a link to the extensive documentation for extracted features, which defines all the features and explains how to read those downloadable data files. Slide, please. The data capsule is a secure Linux virtual machine that any user can sign up for and get their own virtual machine. Allows researchers to access the full text of HathiTrust volumes in a secure environment. Here, researchers can install their own software tools, access the original textual data with their tools, and have much more flexibility in working with the data. Before any derived data, the results of the analysis may be exported from the data capsule. It's reviewed by our outreach and education group to ensure it complies with our non-consumptive research policy. Slide. I mentioned previously our advanced collaborative support program. Through this program, we issue periodic calls for proposals for collaborative research projects that will make use of the HT corpus and HTRC tools. Proposals undergo a competitive review process, and selected projects receive extended support from HTRC to complete their work. Research results and project reports are then hosted on our website. Since 2015, we've had 5 rounds of this program supporting 26 projects with 41 researchers from 24 different institutions. Slide. This is a slide, some examples of some of those 26 projects, building large-scale collections of genre fiction, deriving basic illustration metadata, a computational history of the US novel. And you can read about all 26 projects and their white papers and more at the URL there on the screen. Slide, please. I'll close by talking about an exciting new project, Scholar-Curated Worksets for Reuse, Dissemination, and Analysis, or SCWARD for short. The SCWARD project, funded by the Andrew W. Mellon Foundation, will advance the mission of HTRC by providing scholar-curated worksets and illustrative reusable models of HTRC-enabled research with an emphasis on content related to historically under-resourced and marginalized communities. Our flagship curated work set will be based on the Project on the History of Black Writing in collaboration with co-PI Dr. Mary Emma Graham from University of Kansas. And through the ACS program I just talked about, we'll recruit 3 additional researchers or teams to develop 3 additional work sets and research models. Slide. Thanks. So what are these SCWARD models, illustrative reusable research models? They're the scholar-curated work set focused on a specific topic, discipline, or theme, scholarly introductions to the work sets that will address topics such as historical and cultural context, scope, significance, potential research questions, and potential audiences for the work set. The computational analysis of the content in the work set is another component, and that'll largely be represented by documented derived data sets, might be geospatial data, temporal data, named entities, specialized vocabularies that are extracted from the corpus, and a project white paper that summarizes the overall project, methods, processes, and findings. All these components will be packaged up for the community, made findable and accessible. This is both a research project and an outreach effort. We hope these work sets, accompanied by scholarly introductions and holistic and exemplary research models, will make these methods more visible and accessible and more easily integrated into the classroom and workshops. Slide. And this is the leadership for the SCWARD project, the PIs, and then an excellent advisory board that we're privileged to work with. And of course, there's a larger team of other people not listed here who will be contributing. And one more slide, thank you. And I've left a couple minutes, I hope, for questions.
Thank you, John. Yes, we do have a couple of minutes for questions. If anyone has one, please type it in the Q&A box. John, you covered a lot during that session and very quickly too. Thank you. Well, we are just about, oh, sorry, here comes a question, and I'll let Jessica handle reading it out to us. Jessica?
Absolutely. All right, John, this is from Boaz. I'm wondering about HTRC Hathi data sources beyond traditional library monographs in European languages. For example, Lehigh has gained the Bethlehem police records, which are a treasure trove of potential insights into race and gender relations in the area. At this time, when we close our doors to the communities of users at large as of health reasons, it will be wonderful to reinvest resources into capturing and allowing factual and diverse data to inform our publics.
Yeah, that's a great comment. There are many materials beyond monographs in European languages. There's a great deal of government docs, for instance, and been a lot of work in pulling those together into a unified collection. We have slides, and Mike has slides on different language representations in the corpus. I don't have those statistics ready at hand, but we can get you more details on that.
Great. Well, thank you so much, John. Appreciate that. And now we're going to hear from Karla Strieb, the chair of the HathiTrust Program Steering Committee. Karla.
Thank you, Sandra. And thank you, John. It's always interesting to hear about what's going on at the Research Center. Hi, everyone. I'm Karla Strieb, and it's my honor to be the current chair of HathiTrust's Program Steering Committee. And I just want to say it's a real pleasure as well to see so many new faces at the meeting this year. Even if I can't see your faces, I can see your names. I can see how many folks there are. And I really appreciate that you're taking the time to learn more about what HathiTrust is doing and what we're doing for our members and for the broader community. It's actually a very rare opportunity for the Program Steering Committee to have time on the membership meeting agenda to share some of our work with our attendees. And unfortunately, our time is short, so we're planning to squeeze every minute out of this session. I'm just warning you now. So next slide. I get asked pretty regularly about what the Program Steering Committee is and what it does. And we don't have obvious equivalents in other membership organizations. So just as we go into the next few speakers, I want to let you know that the Program Steering Committee is appointed by and reports to the Board of Governors. We meet every 2 weeks throughout the year, and we stay briefed on a wide range of HathiTrust activities. We provide regular input to operational issues as needed. We support policy development, and we promote member engagement in a whole bunch of ways. There's a lot of information on the Program Steering Committee on Hathi's website, and I believe that the link to that's going to be pushed out in the chat. And if you, after our presentation, of course, take some time to look at that, you'll see the listing there of the past and present PSC members, information on our terms, information on how we're located within the governance process, some of our marvelous history of work in the past, as well as our work in the present. And I hope you take some time to look at that. But what we're going to mostly be foregrounding in a few minutes is that in addition to our own biweekly meetings, we have subgroups to pursue our strategic agendas, and we maintain liaison relationships with several key HathiTrust programs that are not PSC programs, but where we are able to engage with their advisory groups. And then very often we are contributing membership to ad hoc groups, like the group that planned the membership meeting, like the Statement of Values and Code of Conduct Committee. Those groups have members who come from the Program Steering Committee as well. Just to give you a sense of, we did spare you updates on a few things. The groups, the chairs of the groups in orange are the ones who are going to be speaking as part of today's session. So next slide, please. I've talked about who we are and the ways we connect with other groups, but I want to close my part of this presentation of the introduction here by giving some shout outs to the kinds of things that we've been working on. You've heard already about the first examples here. We've been very involved in the development of Hathi's agendas and activities around some core things we've already heard about today. But I do want to say this has been an exceptional year. Since our last membership meeting, we implemented the findings of a review that we had done of all the previous Program Steering Committee groups, and we implemented a new group structure. Launched in January, an interesting time. So you'll be hearing from 3 of the chairs of the Program Steering Committee groups next. And in addition to charging, appointing, and launching those groups, we also implemented a coordinating structure to support alignment of their work. And we've been meeting quarterly together for that. And we've also been including the 3 groups that we have, the chairs of 3 groups that we have the advisory committees representation as well. So with that, I'm going to turn this over to our first PSC task force, and that's community metadata strategy. Go ahead, MJ.
So hello, everyone. Can you hear me well? Okay. The community metadata, the slide, please. The community metadata task force was charged with the creation of a set of guiding principles and potential priorities for metadata enhancement actions and workflows addressing primarily member-contributed bibliographic metadata deployed by HathiTrust in supporting ingest, management, development, and use of the digital collection. And our group currently has 13 excellent members from member institutions. Thank you, everyone. And since January, our group has reviewed previous works done by various HathiTrust groups and completed the environmental scan by meeting with several stakeholders relating to the metadata, including JEFFR, HathiTrust Digital Library, HathiTrust Research Center, User Engagement Group, and OCLC to identify current practices and areas for improvement. We also came up with a list of use cases to better understand the metadata use, metadata management services, and its impact on both HathiTrust and the member institutions. Next slide. Thank you. As a member-driven organization, HathiTrust metadata work also relies on member-contributed metadata, including corrections and enhancement. So for example, when a user reports a metadata error, it must be corrected and resubmitted by the institution. And unfortunately, this oftentimes causes delays in service. And as Mike said earlier, it is not sustainable. And additionally, contributed metadata drives most of the other types of metadata, as HathiTrust creates many different types of metadata based on them to support discovery and user services, teaching, and research. However, there are no clear guidelines or requirements for how often or when member institutions resubmit their metadata after the initial submissions that help not just general HathiTrust users, but also other partner institutions. Based on these findings, our group is now looking for ways that we can do better. So we are forming a set of recommendations for each stakeholder, especially those that will take new, additional, and different roles in metadata ingestion, management, and quality control, such as member libraries like us, HathiTrust Research Center, and OCLC, that would greatly improve HathiTrust overall metadata workflows as well as user experience. And we are planning to submit our final reports this coming spring. Thank you.
Thank you, MJ. Great, and you're staying right on time. We're keeping up the pace here, so we hopefully will have some time for questions from the audience. So Wade, do you want to tell us a little bit about your group?
Sure, thanks, Karla. Could I have the next slide, please? So as Karla mentioned earlier, the Digital Collection Strategy Working Group is one of the newly established groups from PSC, and we're just in our first year of work now. Heather has pushed the link to our charge and the membership out into the chat. Thank you, Heather. If you follow that link, you'll see that we have a really strong roster of members that's drawn from across the HathiTrust membership, both in the US and in Canada, and from the HathiTrust staff. And we're really grateful to our HathiTrust staff members and to the representatives from those institutions for making the time. The working group members bring expertise in collections, special collections and archives, digitization and digital collections, and scholarly communications, as well as a wide range of institutional perspectives to our discussions. So it's a really nice, diverse group that brings a lot of good thoughts and perspectives to the conversation. I won't spend too much time on the charge, but just did want to mention a couple of points briefly. First, that the charge for the Digital Collection Strategy Working Group builds on the really good work that was done by the previous Collections Committee. The Collections Committee was one of Hathi's long-running standing committees. That committee was closed at the time that our working group was established, but we really appreciate all of the work that they did over the years, and we've brought a number of those pieces of work into our conversations within the working group. And I expect we'll be drawing on that a bit more as our work continues. Second, I wanted to mention that the charge for the new working group, focuses on building and diversifying the HathiTrust digital library through targeted collection development. As we'd heard earlier, a lot of the the content of the digital library comes from Google Books, Internet Archive, and some of the large-scale mass digitization of university libraries that was happening, and from the other pieces of their collections that member libraries have chosen to digitize. So we've been asked by PSC to explore possibilities and priorities of HathiTrust members for collection building and increasing the diversity of the collection in a more targeted and intentional way, and to explore some potential pilot projects that we could approach collaboratively across the membership. So as you might imagine, starting a working group in January, we had a little bit of a hiatus, and we really didn't get our work fully underway until around April, as all of us were dealing with rapid changes in our local institutions. Since that time, we've been meeting every couple of weeks and having really good discussions on a variety of topics. Early on, we talked about some of the impacts we were seeing of the emergency temporary access service, and both from the perspectives of ourselves as members and also from the HathiTrust side, and what our HathiTrust staff members could bring to that conversation from their perspective. We've had several really informative presentations and discussions with HathiTrust staff members, including Jessica Rohr for an overview of the HathiTrust services and member support, with Heather Christenson and Natalie Fulkerson on some of the previous collection assessment and development projects that have been undertaken, and with John Walsh and Glenn Worthy from the HathiTrust Research Center on how they're seeing the HathiTrust corpus being used for computational research and non-consumptive research, and where the researchers who were approaching the corpus from that perspective might be finding gaps in what the corpus will allow them to do. We've also spent some time talking through a range of potential collection development areas, their potential benefits and some of the challenges, and what we think would be needed to implement them. So our next areas of work are going to build on all of those pieces that we've put in place up until now. The very next thing coming up for us are the 2 community week sessions that we're hosting next week. Both sessions are fully registered, and we're really looking forward to those broader conversations with the members. So thank you for your enthusiasm in joining those conversations. We'll also be planning some additional ways to connect with the Hathi members and working with the HathiTrust staff and the other working groups and task forces to coordinate and share those opportunities, and to make sure that we're not all reaching out and pinging the members all at the same time. We want to make sure that we're doing this in a balanced and sustainable way. All of that's leading us toward the development of some potential pilot projects where we could work together collaboratively on collection development and collection building for the HathiTrust Digital Library. And that forms the primary deliverable to PSC from the working group. That process will synthesize all of our discussions, as well as the input that we receive from you as HathiTrust members. So we're really looking forward to those conversations next week, and to the future engagement opportunities around collection development that we can bring. So I will stop there and pass it on.
Thank you, Wade. Next up, Chris, you want to talk about user engagement?
Sure, thanks, Karla. My name is Chris Cox. I'm the Dean of Libraries at Clemson University and the chair of the User Engagement Task Force. We are a 9-member group. We include members from HathiTrust organizations, as well as the main organization of HathiTrust. If you want to go to the next slide. The charge we place in the chat in a minute, but our main goals have been to figure out ways of making sure that members are able to engage with the HathiTrust organization, making sure that their feedback is taken, making sure input is shared, and assisting them in engaging their patrons and users in using HathiTrust. What do they know about HathiTrust? How are they sharing the story of what services and collections we offer? So we have a 3-pronged approach to our charge. We were asked to liaise with HathiTrust staff to understand how usage data and feedback is currently collected. And we've been working on that. We met with members of the HathiTrust organization, looked at some data, got a sense of what they're currently collecting as part of an internal scan. The second big piece was to engage with HathiTrust member libraries to understand how well-informed librarians are about HathiTrust services, collections, and programs. and also understanding how well they feel supported regarding communicating those things to their patrons. And so that's sort of the big project we have coming up. So as part of an external scan, we also looked at different member organizations to find out how they were engaging with their members and how they were allowing, offering opportunities to share information about what they offered to the people they serve. The next step for us is a survey, which we're working on, which will go to all members, where we're going to measure their awareness of HathiTrust services and programs, how often they're used, what their familiarity is with them, and learn more about how they actually go about telling the patrons how those are used, and making sure they understand that patrons know what HathiTrust offers all of us. We hope that you'll join us for a HathiTrust Community Week presentation next week. It's a choose your own adventure opportunity. So we have a variety of different activities, some fun, some informative, where we're going to gather some information about your understanding of HathiTrust services and products, and making sure that we understand how you're engaging your users. And that's about it. Thanks so much, Karla.
Thank you, Chris. So now we're going to leave the Program Steering Committee groups and switch over to some of the key HathiTrust programs that PSC liaises with. And so now we're going to be hearing from Heather Christenson about the FedDocs Advisory Committee.
Hi, everyone. So I'm Heather Christenson, Program Officer for Collections at HathiTrust, and I'm coming to you here from my home office in Berkeley, California. So some of you may know more or less about HathiTrust's U.S. Federal Documents Program. Building a collection of U.S. federal documents digitized from print has been a long-standing collection priority for HathiTrust members. Through contributions of digitized documents from you, our members, together we hold a collection of close to 1.4 million U.S. federal documents. I believe this is the biggest collection of digitized U.S. documents outside of the government and commercial realm. We have a collective responsibility to steward this collection, to improve and develop it, and to continue to preserve and provide access to it. The pandemic has especially highlighted the importance of digital access. Late last year, in conjunction with the launch of the new PSC groups, we refreshed the charge for the FedDocs Advisory Committee and relaunched with a new group of members. So the current group has been convened since the beginning of the year and has accomplished a lot given all that has been going on. The COVID-19 pandemic hit, of course, as the group was just getting momentum on our work. We were able to review and affirm our U.S. FedDocs collection priorities, and these priorities, first set in 2017, emphasize collecting essential U.S. FedDoc titles and publications from a number of government agencies and departments. I invite you to take a look at our website for more information and to see the sub-collections that have been created within HathiTrust for better access. Pre-COVID, the committee was just beginning to consider how we might do what we were calling a campaign to encourage members to add to our collection and engage with U.S. federal documents. We recognize that digitization is halted or slowed this year, so we put the campaign idea on pause and we'll revisit that next year. But of course, we welcome deposits of digitized federal documents anytime that you're interested in contributing them to our collection. Recognizing the value of online resources during the pandemic, we switched gears and collaboratively and quickly wrote a promotional piece about our HathiTrust FedDocs collection that advertised the content and also provided tips on discovery and access. And this was posted on our website in May. And also we could do a webinar on this in the future if there's interest. The challenge of serials metadata inconsistencies in our shared collection, just what you need at the end of your day, has been another area of focus for our committee because improvement of this U.S. FedDocs serials metadata associated with our HathiTrust digital volumes will provide better discovery and access for end users, will also enable better identification at the item level to fill in gaps in the digital collection and for shared print purposes in the future. Pre-pandemic, we had envisioned a pilot project in this area. But we decided to start on the problem by characterizing specific issues presented by this data with a focus on access. So we now have a good inventory of issues with specific examples within HathiTrust, and we provided this to the Community Metadata Strategy Working Group as well to support their recommendations. Another need we were able to work on is that our HathiTrust member libraries, who are also US federal depository libraries, have a need to work within the policies of both. We've gathered information for a side-by-side look at HathiTrust and the US Federal Depository Library Program, in particular focusing on policies, content, preservation, access, and services. Although we're still putting the finishing touches on this, we will be sharing it with the HathiTrust community soon, and we'll also be able to use that in strategy work. We've also just started planning to create a US Census collection in HathiTrust. And because we are short on time, I will just say that we'll share our wisdom coming from this experience with other groups soon. So in closing, I just wanted to salute all my colleagues in the FedDocs Advisory Committee who have been contributing so much wisdom and expertise, and they've been just really wonderfully engaged in this really difficult time. So thank you.
Thank you, Heather. And with that, we'll segue to Heather Weltin.
Hi, thanks. Can you hear me? Great. Okay, so like all of us, 2020 has greatly impacted our plans for the shared print program. Still, there really are some amazing things SPAC worked on this year, and I wanted to share them with you all. So this year, we launched the ability for new retention libraries to participate in shared print without an official phase. Since we announced that earlier this year, we've had 2 new libraries sign up, Monash and the University of Sydney. There are a few others we're still waiting on hearing back from though too, so that's definitely exciting news. SPAC frequently hears that it can be challenging to describe the benefits of shared print from our members. So we worked on developing orientation documents for members to help describe what shared print is and the value for libraries participating. You can find these on our resource page linked from the HathiTrust Shared Print Program main page, and that Mike just put in chat for me since I'm speaking. SPAC actually spent the majority of this year focusing on assessment and planning for the future of our program. To start, we launched a survey for our retention libraries to share their thoughts and opinions about our program. We'll be closing that later this month. We also hosted numerous shared print stakeholder discussions to speak with retention libraries about their ideas regarding our program and ideas they have about future development. We had an amazing response rate to both of these, so many thanks to our retention libraries for making time to help us assess and plan for future developments of our program. SPAC will be working on writing up our findings and hope to share that by the end of this year or early next year. HathiTrust is also working with our retention libraries to register our program's commitments in OCLC's shared print registry by the end of the year. HathiTrust is frequently asked if there's a way to discover shared print commitments so members can use them in local collection management decisions. At this time, HathiTrust has no way to disclose these. So along with other national shared print programs, we have opted to work with OCLC on this process. Once that is close to completion, we will share how to discover these with our members and hope that it will help all of you in your local collection management decisions. Next month, we're going to launch a process for reporting lost or missing commitments so that HathiTrust can work with members to locate new commitments for items that have been lost or missing or were committed in error originally. Finally, and certainly not least, this year, HathiTrust started to focus on collaboration to reach some of our goals for our shared print program. We joined the Partnership for Shared Book Collections, and the partnership is a collaboration among shared print monograph initiatives and collections in North America to support cost-effective retention and access to shared print monograph collections. And we also partnered with the Center for Research Library and the California Digital Library to work together to build on a decade of collaboration, innovation, and expertise to define a new phase of shared print built on open and interconnected infrastructure. And soon we will be sharing our first quick win with the community. So keep your eyes peeled for that. And now I'm going to turn it back to Karla for any remaining time we may have for Q&A, or to pass the baton to Yolanda for closing remarks. Thanks.
Thank you, Heather, and thank you to all of the panelists. I think we've done a great job. It's 4:20. We have time for a couple questions. So please use the Q&A function to ask question for any, or I suppose in theory, all of the panelists, although we have quite a few. But I just want to thank the panelists for having been concise, and yet I think we have seen some really common themes about our focus on work that is really strategic and timely for HathiTrust, as well as all of the opportunities we try to create for members to engage with our groups, and all of the ways in which we really count on our colleagues at member institutions to support this work. All of the members of our groups, are, well, other than the staff, this is separate from, or on top of our day jobs, if you will. So it's a really marvelous contribution, and has been for many years. If you look at the websites, we really reflect the work of the membership over a long period of time. I'm going to give folks one more minute to ask us a question. We'd love to feel some love in the form of a question, just to say. Although I can also see Yolanda's ready to go. So I think I will turn it over to her and for our closing remarks. So Yolanda, go ahead and wrap us up.
Thank you, Karla. I hope everybody can hear me and see me okay. I am Yolanda Cooper, the Dean and University Librarian at Emory University, and I'm honored to be the incoming chair of the HathiTrust Board of Governors. I hope you enjoyed the membership meeting today. I did. The panel was outstanding with topics that were thought-provoking and timely. The presentations we heard provided a great overview of the extensive work that has been done throughout the year and the year to come. I also want to say that the format was great. And after seeing the number of attendees today, I think we have to consider there's some real positives to doing meetings like these on Zoom. It's a great opportunity to get people involved and engaged. We heard a lot of good things today, and the work that is emerging is exciting, and I am very pleased that I'll be a part of it as it develops. I want to do a few thank yous. Many thanks to the members, speakers, and presenters, and all of the attendees who joined us today. With a special thanks to Jennifer Benapal and the Statement of Values and Code of Conduct Task Force. I was the board liaison for that task force, so I had the opportunity to witness the exceptional work done, so I want to shout out there. I also want to thank the HathiTrust staff, Jessica Rohr, Melissa Stewart, Jamie Pellegrino, Eric Lacrosse, Tyrell Porter, Gregor Langben, and Heather Weltin, who did an unbelievable job making this meeting happen today. They managed the Zoom discussions, arranged live captioning, took care of registration, worked with speakers, and everything in between. We would not have had a meeting without them. I also want to thank those on the HathiTrust team and at the University of Michigan responsible for standing up ETAS, which was a real lifesaver for libraries around the world. And I know it was for Emory when we had to close in March. I know that was a heavy lift, and I know it continues to be one. And I want to thank Mike Furlow for his innovative and forward-thinking leadership in a time of crises. And lastly, a big thank you to the Program Steering Committee, which you just heard from, and the board for the work they do behind the scenes over the past year. And on behalf of the board, I want to thank Keenan Arlish for his leadership of the board during this unprecedented year. Next slide. Have a few reminders for next week. Members will begin voting to approve the 2021 HathiTrust budget next week. Details will be sent directly to primary member representatives. And one last thing, remember to vote on November 3rd if you haven't already. This isn't over yet, so I'm going to put in one more plug for the Community Week, which is next week. There are a lot of sessions you can participate in to discuss some of today's amazing topics in greater depth. Each day there will be different presentations. So you must register separately for each session you wish to attend. And unfortunately, some sessions are already full, but please take a look. The link should be right there. And one last time, do join the HathiTrust community on Slack. And there's that address for you too. Again, thank you all for coming. It was nice to see everyone. I hope to see some of you next week. Be safe and take care.